Hello again, this is Jim Moore from Granbury, Texas, and today I'm going to talk a little bit about felons. I was a vocational teacher for 20 years, and I had a lot of felons that had gotten out of the system and were retraining in the state of Texas and the state of Washington in the Northwest, and got some definite opinions about the incarceration rate and what they do with people who have felony records and that kind of thing. Myself, I have a very, very clean record, and I guess it's because my dad told me if I ever ended up in jail that somebody else would have to get me out. He wouldn't, and I believed him. But anyway, one of the films that's out about Ron Paul talks about how many people are incarcerated in the United States, and it's like 10 times more than there are in Russia, which scares me because I was brought up that everybody was in the gulag over in Russia, and we were all out running around the street, and we had just a very few people in prison, and wow, and I think the war on drugs has caused a lot of it. And I think that, well, in the state of Texas, I know that the state of Texas is a very punitive state, and they want to throw the book at the perpetrator, and they want to basically make it so bad for them that when they do get out of prison that they go right to another state and not stay in Texas. And I can see where that philosophy will come into bear. I did have a friend of the family's son that ended up in the system, and it was kind of a tough deal all the way. So when our friend gets out of prison, they gave him like $50. He was in there for 7.5 years. Not even the clothes on his back hardly. He had a new shirt, and then they had a bin full of used clothing, and he grabbed a pair of pants, and lucky we'd gone down there to pick him up. Now he had probation and all that, and not probation, is parole, and then probation, and then so far he's been able to keep his nose clean. It has been hard for him to get work with that felony record, especially in these times. But he has stayed out of jail, and that's really good. Now, whether or not he can vote, I have no idea. I was taught that in Texas you have to get a paper signed by the governor to reinstitute your rights and all that. But anyway, it's a very difficult subject. And yes, there's a lot of people that make really stupid mistakes when they're young, and especially if they're using drugs or alcohol, and they end up committing felonies, and they end up in the system. And then it's a very difficult problem. And especially when they were young, they didn't really understand that they could lose their right to vote, and all these things that people learn as they mature. So very difficult problem. But we do have to ask ourselves the question, what is being accomplished by being so punitive on people, especially if it's a nonviolent crime. Now, DWIs, there's only two ways those can go. One, they just were drunk out there and they got caught, but nothing happened. And then there's these terrible wrecks, they're driving up the wrong side of the highway and somebody gets killed, and then it's vehicular homicide. So repeat DWIs, that's tough. I've seen somebody here in Hood County go up for like 30 years because they had a repeat DWI. And, these are hard problems. You'd think that, common sense is if somebody got busted 3 times, that they'd go get treatment and get off the bottle, and I think that's what everybody wants to do. I know for a fact that my friend, when he was in the system there, that they did get a lot of schooling, rehabilitation and stuff. Whether or not that was real or was it just something to bide their time, I have no clue, because I'm not in the system. But, I'm pretty much a law and order type person. I don't really want a lot of people out here that are going to break into my house or hit my kids with their car when they're drunk and, this kind of thing. And so it's sad, that things happen to people when they're under the influence of drugs or alcohol, but the standard shouldn't be that they had drugs or alcohol. The standard should be what did they do when they were under the influence of alcohol or drugs. That's what cuts it with me. I mean, if you know you took alcohol to excess and then went out and drove and then something bad happened, you have to be responsible for that. You can't blame the drug or alcohol. You can, but it's not going to work. So now on the side of somebody like Ron Paul, it's not the government's job to tell you what you can put in your mouth or feed yourself or drink or whatever. That's individual choice. And that takes the law out of being involved in everybody's personal life, which should be, because it's not right for a government to be that close to your personal choices. However, because we do go out in the street and mingle among other civilians that are our countrymen, don't do anything that's going to hurt them, because they've got to be safe. And so, but I do know that, there's a lot of these cases where, the prosecutors are very punitive and they don't want to see any other side of the story type thing. There's hardcore, in one area there'll be a real hardcore conviction, in the other area be more lenient. And then, then you get the whole factor of all the attorneys and the social workers and all this kind of stuff. And, there's a lot of people getting a paycheck out of all that criminal justice stuff, and, they don't want to see it go away because they're getting a paycheck out of it. And and I think each state has the right to determine, whether a felon gets his voting rights and such reinstated. I think if there's a period of time that they've kept themselves clean and hadn't done anything to recommit, or that there's some kind of proof that they're finally going to get their life in order, I don't see any problem with them getting their rights reinstituted. And the felony is not as bright on their rap sheet, so to speak, because eventually we all get a little older, a little more mature, and a little more sane, or dead. So anyway, that's all I've got to say. Yes, we got too many people in prison. Places like Texas are very punitive. Other states are not so punitive, but then they got problems with a lot of criminals that shouldn't be out there. And just watch the 6 o'clock news, because that's what you're going to see. Well, that's all I got for that today. Thank you.